Hi, I'm Jason Impey, and I'm the director of Terrorise and Violated, both of which are in the Save Horror Film Festival this year. It's great to be back. I'm back with two films that actually almost never saw the light of day, and I'm really pleased that they're reaching an audience. Because out of my filmography, I actually am quite keen, particularly on Terrorise. So what got me into wanting to make films in the first place? Well, I've always loved film, literally since I was a 5-year-old kid. I used to watch movies and always be interested in why it was shot the way it was shot. Why did they show this? Why did they do that? And that led me on a journey into studying film and making my own amateur short films as a kid on my dad's old camcorder. And I progressed and progressed by actually doing student films, studying, and finally getting out there and doing my own thing that's just evolved over time. It's been quite a journey, and I've enjoyed most of it. um, so inspirations for both my films, Terrorise and Violated. Well, both films were actually inspired by the video nasty era. So me being born and bred and brought up in the UK, I grew up in the 80s and 90s where the video nasty and the aftermath was in play, and England was quite strict with the ratings because of the BBFC, because of the whole video nasty thing. So the video nasties acted almost like a collector's list, as I'm also a film collector and lover, so I collected a lot of the video nasties. And it's a lot easier now with boutique labels, but I used to have to try and get like kind of bootlegs of the ones that weren't available at the time, just to see them in really bad quality forms, or sometimes cut versions that Vipco put out and things like that. But those video nasties, I was kind of the right age for like being quite inspired. They were out there, they were different than from mainstream movies, and they were kind of very crazy at the time, and it was almost like a forbidden fruit. It was like quite naughty to have one here. So they were quite an inspiration of mine, because I have a lot of nostalgia for video nasties, and they did kind of influence me and make me go more and more into discovering other horror films. So Terrorise and Violated are like homages to some of the video nasties, the subjects they deal with, how their characters are portrayed, how they were shot and made. Some of my favourite directors contributed to the video nasties, like Ruggero Deodato, Dario Argento, Umberto Lenzi, Lucio Fulci, the classics. I have a real soft spot for the Italian cannibal and zombie subgenre, and although Terrorise and Violated aren't cannibal or zombie films, they do kind of take the aesthetics of that filmmaking. But Terrorise did start out as a zombie film when it first was being made. It's quite a long story, really, which leads to me saying, how did the productions go? Well, Terrorise is actually a whole new work of mine, but it is a recreation of a film I made in 2007. So in 2007, I shot a feature film called Tortured, aka Sex Slave. The aka was a gimmick because a lot of the video nasties had alternate titles in different countries. Like there's in America, Zombie 2 is Zombie Flesh Eaters in the UK, things like that. So I was having a little play with it. And it did have a zombie opening, which is hence why I said that the whole inspiration of the zombie subgenre. And then that film got released, and it was very kind of grindhousey, exploitation-y. And I revisited it and turned it into Psychopaths a couple of years later. I did reshoots, I edited out the zombie subplot, and I did new scenes following more of a cop thriller detective story, where it was all still a trashy film, but a bit more towards the kind of action trash rather than horror trash. And years and years have gone by, and I missed an opportunity with it because it was a bit of a Frankenstein piece of work. I wanted a clean slate and to tell the story and do the film properly, really how I should have done it. But years after making it and all the other experiences and progressing as a filmmaker, it was something I wanted to go back and rectify. So basically, I got all of the footage from years ago, from the torture shoot, from the Psychopath shoot. I got everything together, hours and hours and hours of rushes. I'm sure it was well over 20 hours of footage, and I'd shot it in HDV. I remastered it, and I created the ultimate version. So Terrorise is from scratch, from the original material, remastered, recut, stuff that hasn't been seen or used before, completely redone and reworked to create kind of what I should have done in the first place. It's almost like my Caligula at the moment with all the different edits of that. But Terrorise is the version I stand by. It's a unique film. It's different than Tortured and Psychopaths. So if you've seen Tortured or Psychopaths, this is to me a different experience because I had a very different mindset and approach when bringing this together, and I feel like it just tells the story a lot better. And it's trashy to an extent, as in it still nods and homages the classic exploitation and grindhouse video nasty films I love, but in a bit more of a prestigious way, shall we say. But Violated is the nastier of the two films, and that almost is a bit of a nod to the guinea pig films, the original Japanese guinea pig movies. And again, this was actually nearly a lost film. It was shot in 2011 originally. The actual filming took place, and I had a disaster on the edit. My edit machine broke just as I had a near final cut. I completely lost that edit. All kinds of technical issues went on. Other shoots happened. Lots of crazy things happened in life. As a result, that Violated actually ended up getting shelved, and it was originally filmed. There was a little pickup. I tried. Little bits were used for other projects, for like my homemade films, the Jack homemade following Jack Hess, the crazed filmmaker. But the actual film Violated kind of fell into obscurity and was shelved, and the footage was kind of archived away. And eventually, and I'm really pleased I did, I managed to dig all that out, remaster that, and again actually get it made many years later, well over 10 years after it was originally shot. It finally sees the light of day, and it is actually quite a nasty film. The full uncut version of Violated is quite you can see the old me in that. It was interesting revisiting such old footage where I have not changed, but you could say I've matured a bit, and that was like really going back to my extreme cinema days. So yeah, that's not so for the faint-hearted, that film. But my favourite horror film of the year, I'm going to say, is In a Violent Nature. In a Violent Nature really blew me away. I actually saw it at a secret screening when I went to the cinema, and I wanted to see it anyway, so I was really pleased when the title card come up that it was In a Violent Nature I was going to watch. I was really curious. The reason I love it so much is I think it is quite unique. It takes all the classic horror tropes, but it puts a different spin on it. I can see why it's a Marmite film and some people hate it, and there was a lot of walkouts at the screening I was at, but in a world of film where so much has been done so many times, it's hard to be different and unique. I found this really a bit of a breath of fresh air and quite bold and very risk-taking, because I think the makers of that film knew that it would be quite a mixed received film. So my hat's off to them. I found it quite refreshing, and it homages the films that I've been talking about at the same time, has its own very pretentious spin on it. And any future plans that I'm working on, basically I am quite deep into editing at the moment. Again, I shot a documentary quite a while ago. I keep getting sidetracked with other projects I get hired to work on, and finishing projects off and getting stuff sent off. Time is crazy, and the world is crazy of filmmaking. So I'm actually finally nearly finished a feature-length documentary looking at the fetish industry, which I'm hoping to release quite soon. I'm doing the final touches. I spent quite a while on the side shooting a film called Existence as well, and that's a very art house film in the vein out of Life Out of Balance, and it's going to be quite different for me, and there is unbelievable amount of footage for it. Hours and hours and hours and hours. There's lots of animals being filmed and cameras left and time-lapse stuff, so lots of stuff I'm working on in post-production, and I hope to get that out in the near future, and it's very, very different for me. So And I've just finished my edit of She's a Bitch, which is a film that I made with Eileen Daly. I was a cinematographer and I've done my edit on it, the Impey cut. And that's just started to the festival round, so I'm tweaking and finishing that up. So exciting times ahead, and I am so pleased to be here, and thank you for having me at the Sarah Horror Film Festival.